Shabbos Daf Ayin continues the discussion about how many karbonos chatas a person has to bring when he is mechalel Shabbos b'shoigig by mistake. And as we saw in the Mishnah, it depends what he forgot. If he forgot that today is Shabbos, and he did lots of malachos, he only has to bring one korban chatas for all of them. If, however, he knew today was Shabbos, but he forgot that a number of malachos were aser, and he did them each, then he has to bring a separate chatas for each and every one. So the Gemara will first of all try to understand what the difference is between these cases. Next, the Gemara will want to know the source for this halacha that you can have separate chatas for separate malachos. We'll have three potential sources, and Shmuel will choose one of them that he holds like. Then the Gemara will have two shaylas. What happens if somebody forgets both Shabbos and the malachos? And then a complex case at the end of the daf, which is a machlokas, Abaye, and Rava, and continues into the next daf. So let's begin. First of all, the Gemara wants to know, why is there a difference? Why does it make a difference whether you forgot it is Shabbos or you forgot that the malachos are aser? How come where you forgot that it's Shabbos, you only have to bring one korban chatas for all the malachos they did, but if you forgot that the malachos are aser and you knew it's Shabbos, then you have to bring separate malachos for each malacha that you did. So Gemara says two answers here, Rav Safra and Rav Nachman. Rav Safra says the chiyuv chatas, the obligation to bring a korban chatas, only hits a person when he realizes that he made a mistake, when he realizes that he was mechalel Shabbos. So you count how many things he has to realize. Somebody who was mechalel Shabbos because he didn't know that today was Shabbos. So he only has to realize one thing to have the chiyuv korban fall on him. He has to realize that today was really Shabbos, and therefore what he did was wrong. So the one thing he has to realize that today was Shabbos, it's one thing, he has to bring one korban. If, however, he has to realize he knew it was Shabbos, but he didn't realize that these malachos are aser, he has to realize or be informed that each separate thing is aser. So each separate thing has to bring a korban chatas. So Rav Nachman doesn't like this. Rav Nachman says no, he has to realize both things. He has to know that it's Shabbos and that the malachos are aser. You can't be chayav korban chatas to realize that there was a mistake unless you are aware of both things. He has to be made aware of both of them, even though he knew both of them. But the only reason why Shabbos is important is because the malachos are aser. So he's realizing that each malachos is aser on Shabbos. So Rav Nachman therefore says it doesn't go by what he realizes, it goes by how many mistakes he made. Somebody did know today was Shabbos and did lots of malachos. The only mistake he made was he thought that today was Friday, didn't realize that it was Shabbos. On the other hand, somebody knew it was Shabbos, each individual malacha counts as a separate mistake, and therefore it's a separate chatas. Now the Gemara says, how do you know that you could divide up chatas by malachos? Maybe you should divide it up by halachos. There are thousands of halachos in Hilchos Shabbos. Each one that he violates is not a separate chatas. So how do you divide it up by malachos? Maybe it's all called one thing. It's all called being mechalel Shabbos, doing malacha. How do you know that each separate malacha is a separate korban chatas? So the Gemara will have three sources for this. First we have Shmuel, and then we have two Tanaim, Rav Nasan and Rav Yaisi. And Shmuel doesn't go like either of them. And let's see how it plays out of here. First of all, Shmuel says that the source for this halacha, that each malacha, each of the 39 malachas counts as a separate isser, as a separate thing for bringing a korban chatas, is from the fact that the pasuk says, "Kol ha'isam malacha mais yumas." It uses the double expression mais yumas, that's an extra word, to teach us that you can have lots of different types of yumas. So Gemara says, what do you mean? That's talking about somebody who does Chil Shabbos on purpose. That says that he's put to death for violating Shabbos. So that's for a mezid. That's not for a shegeg. So the Gemara says, okay, but it obviously can't apply to a mezid because the person can't be put to death twice. So when it says that you get a multiple ma'isi mas, it can't be referring to mezid. Therefore, you have to do a rule of drasha called imeni inin lozeh, tanei inin lozeh. It doesn't make sense in the context that it's in, so you apply it to a different context. So we apply it to the context of a shogeg, somebody who does by mistake, and therefore we say that he gets a monetary execution, which is bringing a korban. He has to put something which he owns to death, and that's two karbonos. He has multiple karbonos, so therefore you see that you could have separate karbonos for the many different types of Shabbos. So now the Gemara says, what did Rav Nasan say? And how come Shmuel doesn't like Rav Nasan's approach? So the Gemara says Rav Nasan derives it from the fact that it says in the pasuk lo yisevaru eish b'chol mosh v'yiseicha. Now, that's an extra phrase. Why does the Torah have to single out fire as being aser to light on Shabbos? There's a whole list, it says you're not allowed to do malacha on Shabbos. Why is fire singled out? So the Gemara says it's as follows. We know that there are 39 malachos. How do you know that there are 39? Because the Torah says, Vayakal Moshe kol das bnei Yisrael, and afterwards it ends off, Eila ha-devarim. And it says, Sheishes Yomim Teyasa Malacha. So the phrase, Eila ha-devarim. Devarim means things, so that's two. Minimum of two, because it's plural. Ha-devarim, extra hey, makes it three things. Eila is gematria, numerical value of 36. So you add 36. So you have 2 plus 1 plus 36. So you have altogether 39. You know that there are 39 malachos. And you know that each one counts as a separate isser, a separate prohibition, because the Torah elsewhere says, B'charash v'katzir tishbos, you have a separate prohibition for plowing and planting. Now, it's not only those two. That shows you that those two are each a separate prohibition than each other and then the rest. But you also have fire singled out in order to teach you that each one is a separate prohibition. All 39 are separate. Now, this is Rabbi Nassan's understanding, and this is therefore a source for the halacha that each of the 39 malachos is a separate isser and could get a separate chatas. Now, Rabbi Yossi, the Tana, disagrees with Rav Nassan, so the Gemara says it's very simple, that Shmuel does not want to use this source, because he holds like Rabbi Yossi that this source is for something else. This source is to tell you that lighting a fire is not kares. It's only a lav, it's not a kares. Now, Rabbi Yossi had his own source, and the Gemara is going to want to know why Shmuel doesn't go with Rabbi Yossi's source. Rabbi Yossi's source is as follows. It's actually a triplicate drasha. We have the pasuk describing the chiyav to bring a carbon chatas if you do an aveira by mistake. So it says as follows: Ashaloi seyasena, you did something wrong. But also may achas mehena, and he does from one from these. From one from these is a funny expression. That's not how you speak. It should say and he does one of the averas, or he does one aveira. Why does it say from one from these? It's may achas mehena. Should have just said achas. So you have three extra things here. First of all, the mem in me achas. The whole word heina doesn't belong there, these. And the mem in heina doesn't belong there either. From one, from these, you should have just said one. So you have the two froms and you have the these. So what are these drushes for? So the Gemara says it's as follows. This is Rabbi Yossi, Reb Chanina, the Amira explaining Rabbi Yossi the Tana. The mem of the word me achas is to tell you that you are in violation of Hilchos Shabbos, even if you don't complete the malacha you meant to do, you just do a malacha. So, for example, somebody writes. So, if he intended to write the name Shimon, but he only writes Shin Mem, so he didn't complete what he intended to do, but he did do a complete malacha. He wrote the name Shem, he just wrote Shin Mem. So that we learn me achas from one of what he intended. He did part of the malachas that he intended to do. Now, what's the mem for mehena from these? That's to tell me that you are violating Hilchos Shabbos. You have to bring a chatas, even if you just do a tolda, a subcategory of a malacha. You don't do the main malacha. You don't do the hang malacha. You do a subcategory that is from these. It's not this itself. It's not the malacha itself. It's from these. So that is also a violation. Now, what about the heina? So the heina is to put together achas and heina and achas. Achas means singular, heina is plural, one and many, many and one. That it is possible to have one mistake and violate many Hilchos Shabbos, have to bring a lot of chatas, and then there are circumstances in which you only have to bring one chatas. And the circumstance in which you only have to bring one chatas is if you forgot a Shabbos, and that's why you did all the malachos. And the circumstance in which you have to bring many different chatas is if you forgot that each of the malachos is aser, and therefore you have to bring many chatas for the many mistakes. That's Rabbi Yossi's source. Now, why does Shmuel not hold of this? Shmuel does not hold that the word heina is extra. Heina achas, he doesn't think these are extra. He doesn't think that there's any drasha that needs to be made over here. Okay, now the Gemara has a question. Rava asks Rav Nachman, question, what happens if somebody forgets both things? He forgets all the malachas, and he forgets that it's Shabbos. He doesn't know the malachas aser, he also doesn't know that today is Shabbos. So what then? On the one hand, the one forgetting that today is Shabbos is enough of a mistake to make him be liable to do all these malachos. So he maybe should only bring one chatas. On the other hand, he also forgot a bunch of chatos. So Gemara says, Rav Nachman's answer. So we have Rav Nachman's answer, we had Rav Ashi's answer. Rav Nachman says that since the one forgetting that today is Shabbos is enough to trigger all these mistakes, he only has to bring one korban chatas. The Gemara says that the Gemara doesn't like that, because the Gemara says, why does the fact that he made more mistakes lessen his number of chatos? If he would have known that today was Shabbos and do a bunch of malachos, then he would have to bring a separate chatas for each one. Why should that be less? Because he had another mistake. Doesn't make sense. Versus Rav Ashi says we have to look at what reminds him. If he's reminded that today is Shabbos, then that's only one reminder that suffices for all his mistakes. So then he only has to bring one chatos. If he's reminded that these malachos are usher, then he's reminded one at a time. So the Gemara doesn't like this, because the Gemara says that again, like we had in the beginning of the daf. The reminder is only useful if he remembers both things. If you told him today is Shabbos, then he understands that what he's doing is usher, because otherwise why are you telling him it's Shabbos? Or if you say, hey, that's a malacha, then he understands, oh, today must be Shabbos, otherwise why are malachos important? So that he's being reminded, perhaps not explicitly, but he's being reminded of both facts, that this is a malacha and that it's Shabbos. So therefore, you can't look at what the person who reminded him told him, because he has to remember all the details. Therefore, that makes no difference. We have to revert back to Rav Nachman's answer that he only has to bring one chatas. The Gemara now quotes a Mishnah from which it wants to prove that somebody who forgot that it's Shabbos and he forgot the malachos still has to bring many different korban chatas for each malacha. This is a rehash of a proof we had in Daf Samach Tes to Rabbi Yochanan, against Rabbi Yochanan. And let's see what the proof is. Again, this will sound familiar. The proof is from the Mishnah, which says that there are 39 malachos in Shabbos, and it lists the 39. And the Gemara asks, why do you have to tell me a number? The Gemara says, the reason why you're telling me the number is so that you could end up having to bring 39 chatos if you forgot all of them. Meaning there is a possible case where somebody has to bring 39 chatos if he forgot every single malacha in Hilchos Shabbos. Now the Gemara says, how is this possible? If he forgot 39 chatos, that means he forgot all about Shabbos. That means he doesn't know Shabbos. So if you tell me that somebody forgot Shabbos and forgot the malachos, still has to bring korbanos chatos for every single malacha, so then that's what the Mishnah is referring to. If, however, you tell me that the person only has to bring malacha, only has to bring chatos for each malacha if he remembers that it's Shabbos, how does this work? This guy doesn't remember anything about Shabbos, doesn't know about Shabbos, doesn't know a single fact about Shabbos because he forgot all 39 malachos. So now, if you want to hold like Rabbi Yochanan, who says that if you remember that if you forgot that there's kores, that's enough to bring a chatas, then you could say he knew about all the malachas, just forgot that each one carries kores. Okay, then I could get out of it. But according to Reish Lakish, it says that not knowing kores is not enough, so then I'm still stuck with the problem. So Gemara says the same answer I said earlier. The Gemara says no. He did know one thing about Shabbos. He knew that there's an issur to go outside the tchum on Shabbos. Okay, so he heard of Shabbos, he knew about Shabbos, he just forgot the 39 malachos. So it's not our case of somebody who forgot Shabbos and forgot malachos. He knew Shabbos, he just forgot the 39 malachos. That's what this Mishnah is referring to. Now the Gemara has a complex case, which is a machlokes Abaye and Rava, and this discussion goes into tomorrow's daf. So the case is as follows. Somebody did two sets of malachos. Let's say he cut off a vegetable and he ground it up. Those are two separate malachos. Now, he did them twice. He did two sets of malachos twice. For he cut and ground and cut and ground. He did it twice. However, there's a difference between the way he did it the first time and the second time. The first time, he forgot that it was Shabbos, but he knew that the malachos are asur. The second time, the opposite. He knew that the malachos were asur, but he forgot that it's Shabbos. So for the first time, he only has to bring one chatas for both. For the second time, he has to bring a separate chatas for each. Now, the question is, what happens when the guy found out later, after he had done all these malachos, he found out that they were asur? How many korban chatas does he have to bring now? So we'll split into two cases. Which set of malachos did he find out about first? Because whichever one he found about it first is when he set up a chatas for that. So the first thing that he found about, if the first thing that he found out about was that he had done Shabbos where he didn't know that it was Shabbos, and he knew about the malachos, so he didn't know it was Shabbos, so therefore he only has to bring one korban chatas for both malachos that he did. So that korban chatas also works for the other case where he forgot that each malacha was asur, and he has to bring two separate chatas. Why? Because when he's bringing only one chatas for both averos, because he forgot the malacha, so he's bringing one chatas, which covers both the cutting and the grinding, covers each malacha. And the two malachos combine, the two cuttings combine, and the two grindings combine, because he didn't find out that he was doing something wrong in between. The rule is if you do the same malacha twice, so you only have to bring one chatas for both unless you found out in between. Here he didn't find out in between, so he did cutting twice, he did grinding twice. The first carbon he brings covers both the grinding, the first carbon he sets aside covers both the grinding and the cutting, because it was the one he found out about first was the case where he forgot about Shabbos, and only has to bring one. So that covers those two, and it also, each one covers the other case where he forgot and he needed two separate karbanos, but each one is covered by this carbon, because this carbon covers both malacha, and each malacha covers the other malacha that happened. That Abaye agreed to. The question is, what happens if the first thing he found out about was the case where he knew about Shabbos and forgot about the malacha? Now he has to bring two separate karbanos for each malacha that he did. So let's say he sets aside a carbon for cutting. Yeah? So that carbon works on the cutting that he did earlier as well. It works on the other one. Now the other one, he only needs one carbon for, because there he forgot about Shabbos. So the carbon which works for cutting there also works for grinding there, because he only needs one carbon there for both malacha. The problem is, what about the second malacha that he did now that he is chayav a separate carbon for? Is that covered? It can't be covered by the carbon that he's bringing now for cutting, because now he needs two separate malachas. But maybe it could be covered because the carbon he's bringing now for cutting covers the carbon that he needed to bring earlier for both malachas. And since both malachas earlier are covered, the grinding is covered, and that grinding should cover this grinding. Let's go around in a circle. So it's machlokes Abaye and Rava. Rava says it's not covered. Abaye says it is covered. We'll go over this again on Daf Ayin Aleph, and the Gemara will discuss it at length.